All right, so here we have the abdominal muscles. So the first one to take note of is the rectus abdominis muscle. This is that classic six-pack muscle. You have these bands of connective tissue that give it that six-pack look. So if we get rid of that, the next one to take note of, we have the external obliques here, and then we have the internal obliques here, and then lastly we have the transverse abdominis muscle here. The thing to take note of with these muscles is that all of them are going to contribute to spinal flexion to some degree, kind of going in order from outer to inner muscles. The rectus abdominis are going to contribute to it most strongly, followed by the external obliques, followed by the internal obliques. Not as much by the transverse abdominis, but you will get some spinal flexion to some extent. Good exercises for spinal flexion are going to be any kind of crunch variation, sit-ups where you flex the spine, or especially leg raise variations where you're really trying to like scoop the pelvis up off the bench. You're trying to, point your pelvis up towards the ceiling, basically in front of you. Any of those exercise variations are going to train all the layers of the abdominal wall. All the oblique muscles are going to be activated as well during any kind of rotational exercises. This includes the transverse abdominis. Or with these muscles, basically any exercise variation where you see this with a lot of cable rotation exercises, any kind of flexion combined with rotation. So during sit-up and crunch variations where you're trying to bring your shoulder to the opposite knee or the opposite hip, all of those movements are going to train those other layers of the abdominal wall very effectively. So that's going to include your external and your internal obliques, along with the transverse abdominis. The last main muscle we want to cover as part of the abdominal wall is going to be the quadratus lumborum here. This muscle, along with the external and internal obliques, will also contribute pretty significantly towards lateral spinal flexion. So any exercise that incorporates lateral spinal flexion, which any kind of side crunch, side plank crunch, any of those kinds of exercises, those are all going to train those muscles very effectively as well.